Hi, welcome to a Byte of Python tutorial. In this pilot video tutorial, we will create a Python program that performs input and output operations. Moreover, I will show you how variable works in Python and how to determine its data type. I will be using Jupyter Notebook on this tutorial series. Jupyter Notebook is one of the code editor included when you install Anaconda Python distribution. It is ideal to use when you are learning the Python programming language, particularly for the beginners, because you can write notes or description in addition to your codes. I created a separate video on on the basic of Jupyter Notebook. So let us begin with our first topic. So let me first create a markdown cell for the title of our tutorial. Okay, so I will be using the number symbol to create a heading. The title of our tutorial is Lesson 1, Input Output Operation, Variable, and data types. Okay. So shift enter to execute the cell. So I will create another markdown cell for the subheading for our first topic, output operation. Okay, so I will use triple numbers symbol to create a subheading. Okay, so in order to perform output operation, we will be using the print function. Okay. Okay, so I'm creating a markdown for the description of the print function. So the print function prints value to a screen. Okay, shift enter. So now let us have our first example, our first line that will use the print function. Let us say let us display hello Python programming on the screen. So we will be using the print function. So inside the open and close parentheses, you will place the message or the value that you want to display on the screen. So it must be surrounded by a single quote or double quote. Okay? So because the value that we need accepted by the print function is in string format or string type. Okay, so we will display hello Python programming. So to execute the code, I will press shift enter. Okay, so you see the output below our code cell, hello Python programming. If you want to see the complete arguments of the print function, in the code cell, you can type print and then open parentheses. It automatically plays the close parentheses. And then you can press shift tab on your keyboard to show the documentation of the print function. So you will see on the documentation, the print function has the following arguments or parameter. The value, so you can place multiple value separated by a comma. Okay. The value can be, usually it's in the form of string, or you can include variable, so it will display the content of the variable. Then we have argument or parameter for the sep, that's for the separator. So by default, the separator is space. So you will notice sep is equal to single quote, space, single quote. So if you place multiple value inside the print function, so each value is separated by space. Okay? So you can modify that. You can replace the space separator by using the sep function. Let us demonstrate that later. Another important parameter that you can use as part of the print function is the end. Okay? The end parameter, by default, it will create a new line, \n. So after printing the value or after printing the string or the message, so it will create a new line. So you can change that. For example, you don't want to create a new line, so you want the cursor to stay on the same line, so you can remove the \n. So you can put simply place an empty string like single quote, so that the cursor will remain on the same line. So that's it. Let us try to use multiple print statement and let us see the result. So let us use the same message, hello Python programming, but let us divide it in 3 separate lines. For the first line, let us display hello. Okay, another print statement that will display Python, and another statement that will display programming. Okay, so let us execute this code by pressing the Shift Enter in our keyboard. So you will notice that hello Python programming was displayed in 3 separate lines because by default the print function create or print a new line after displaying the value. Okay, so that's the default behavior. So let us change the end parameter so that the cursor will remain on the same line. Okay, so maybe I can just copy the codes that we have created in this cell, copy, Control C, and then paste. And then I will be using the end parameter of the print function in order to change what will be executed after displaying, what character will be executed after displaying the value. So in this case, we don't want to create a new line, so we want the cursor to stay on the same line. So I can just assign single quote, empty string as the parameter or as the value of the end parameter. You can also use double quote to assign empty string. Okay, let us do that on the second line. Okay, and on the third print function. And let us see the result. Shift Enter. Okay, so you will notice that compared to our second example, we use 3 print function. It display hello Python programming in 3 separate lines. So this time, hello Python programming was displayed on the same line. So it did not create new line. So \n is equivalent to new line. Okay, because we replace the end value and parameter value to empty string. Next, let us insert characters, okay, as part of the string. So earlier I told you that string is surrounded by single quote or double quote. So usually you pass string value to print, no? Now, how about you want to display double quote as part of the message or as part of the value that you want to display? Okay, and we know that the double quote and single quote has a special meaning in Python programming. It represents the beginning and the end of the string. So now we want to use it, we want to display single quote to surround it. We will use it to surround the word Python. So how can we do that? Okay? So one method is by using the backslash code. So we will using the backslash, okay, then double quote to display double quote, then the word Python, then another backslash double quote to display another double quote. Okay, then programming. Okay, shift enter to execute. So you will notice Python is now surrounded with the double quote, quotation mark. So let's try to display the same line, but I will not use backslash, okay, to display the double quote. So I'll simply put double quote, then Python, and then double quote, programming. What will happen? Okay, let's see what will happen. Okay, so syntax error. So why? Because as I said, the double quote indicate the beginning and the end of the string. So you will notice here that so here we indicate this is the start of our string. Now we have another double quote, so it indicates the end of our string. So what happened to this? It will not be this word Python. It will not be recognized. It's outside the double quote, so it will not be recognized as part of the string. So invalid syntax was displayed by our interpreter. So if you want to insert a special character, you can use the backslash, okay? The backslash and then the special character that you want to display as part of your string. Another method is, so as alternative on using double quote, we can use single quote to indicate string value. Single quote at the beginning, single quote at the end. Surrounded, so the value, the text must be surrounded by single quote or double quote. So since we will display a double quote, so let us use single quote value, single quote in order to display. It will display the same output, hello, and then double quote, Python, double quote, programming. Okay, so it will be accepted by the Python programming language. It will be executed. Same result with the one that we use a backslash code. Okay, so here we use the single quote to indicate string value, single quote at the beginning and single quote at the end. So the double quote will be treated as another character that will be part of our hello Python programming message that will be displayed on our screen. Okay. Now let us display multiple value. So I told you earlier that we can display multiple value inside the print function. Just separate it with a comma. Okay. Example, the first value that we will display is I, comma, second value. So all value that we will display are in the string or text format, love, Python, and then the last value is programming. Okay, so we have 4 string value that will be displayed inside using the print function. So once we execute it using or by pressing shift enter, so it will display I space love space Python space programming. So going back, when we examine the parameters of the print function, it has separator parameter with with default value of space. So that's why the separator is space. Now suppose you want to change it, okay? You want to change the separator. For example, let us change it to asterisk, okay? So I'll just copy this, Control C, select and copy, paste. Okay, so after supplying the value, I will supply or change, assign the new separator character, which is asterisk. It must be surrounded with double quote or single quote because the separator parameter accept string or character value. So let us execute this, shift enter. So you will see the result. So instead of space, so the separator is now asterisk, okay? So now let us move to our next topic for this tutorial, input operation and variable, okay? So the previous line of codes that we have executed, we simply use print function to display something on our screen. So usually we don't create a program that simply displays something on the screen. So the basic operation of computer is input, then process, then output. So we have to accept something, we have to accept some values from the user in order for us to process it, okay? So for instance, we can compute the accepted value before we display the result or the output. So I will create another markdown cell and I will create a heading. So I will again use the double number sign to create a heading, input operation and variable. This is our second topic for this tutorial. Okay, shift enter. Okay, so for the input operation, basic input operation in Python, we will be using the input function. So I will create a markdown cell for the description of the input function. Okay. So double asterisk to format the input word, input function as bold. Okay. So the input function read string from standard input, so from the keyboard. Okay, so the accepted value of the input function is in the string format, or so string is you cannot use it in computation. It's a collection of alphabets, alphanumeric value. Okay, so even though you input or type numeric value in your keyboard, still it will return string value. So the input function will always return string value. That's why if you will use the input function and the return value of the input function in the computation, you need to use conversion function. So I will demonstrate that later in this tutorial. So let us create a simple example that will accept the name of the user. And usually, if we have input, we have to store it to a variable. So variable serve as storage in computer program. Okay? So now, if you have previous programming experience in other programming language, usually you declare a variable before you use it. but in Python, that is not the case. So if you need a variable, you simply use it. So in Python, variable is dynamically typed. When I say dynamically typed, so the data type of a variable change depends on the value that we store to a variable. Okay? So no need to declare a variable before you use it in Python. So just use it. Okay? So let us assign. So we will be using equal as assignment operator. We will use it to assign the value, string value, John. So John is string. So it must be surrounded with single quote or double quote. Okay. So now let us use the print. We are not using input function yet. So we are just using a variable with the value John. We created a variable with value John, and let us display the value together with other string. So let us display first hi. I will concatenate the word hi using plus operator to the value of the name variable. Okay. So in this example, inside the print function, the plus operator serve as concatenation operator. So concatenation operator is used to combine string. Okay? In this case, we will combine the string hi, we will combine it to the content of the name variable, which is John. So hi John plus, so we will concatenate again with exclamation point. Okay? And then, so although we perform concatenation, okay, in the first value, it is just considered as a single value. For the second value, okay, let us display welcome to Python programming. Okay. So in this line, in this code cell, particularly in the print function, so for the first value, we will display hi plus the name of, or the content of John, of name, which is John, plus exclamation point. So it will display hi John exclamation point. Then we have a second value, welcome to Python programming. So, and we know that the default separator is space. So let us see the output. Okay, so that's the output. Hi. Inside the string hi, you will notice space here before I terminate the string. Okay, plus the content of name, which is John, plus single quote, comma, another string value, welcome to Python programming. So you will, there is a space here because of the default separator space in the print function. Then the second value, welcome to Python programming. Okay. Now, it's not good idea that we assign fixed value to a variable. We usually, in that example, name of the person. So usually we accept, okay, we accept input from the user so that we can display the name of different user. So this time, let us use the input function to accept, to ask the name of the user so that we will, using the print function, we can display it on the screen. So let us use the same variable name, and then instead of assigning a fixed name, let us use the input function. And then in the input function, the basic parameter is the message that you want to display when you ask value to the user. So, for example, let us display what is your name. Okay. So it will display a message, what is your name, and it will uh, be waiting for you to type something, type your name. Once you press enter, the value that you type will be saved to the name variable. Then after that, okay, so I'll just copy and paste the print function that will display the name of the user concatenated with the word hi and the second value, welcome to Python programming. Okay, so I will execute this code cell, shift enter. Okay, so you will notice a text box, so it is waiting for you to type something or type your name. For example, I will type Rod and I will press enter. And then since the value Rod was saved to name variable, so the output is using the print function, hi Rod, welcome to Python programming. For the next example, let us handle numeric value. So I will create another variable, n1, and I will assign 5. Another variable, n2, name m2, and with a value of 50. Then let us create a variable that will store the sum of the content of n1 and n2. So I told earlier that variable represent a value, one value, okay? So in this example, so we created n1 that has a value of 5 and n2 with a value of 50. So n1 represent 5, n2 represent 50. So when we compute, we use the arithmetic operator, addition, okay, operator, n1 plus n2. So the result, n1 represent 5 plus n2 represent 50. So 5 plus 50, the value of the computation will be stored to sum, okay, sum variable. And let us display it using the print function. So our message is the sum of, that will be our first value to be displayed, comma, for the second value, let us display the content of n1 variable, comma, for the third value that we will display inside the print function, let us display end string. And next, let us display the content of n2, comma. So next value that we will display, let us display is string. And last, let us display the content of sum. Okay? So let us see the result. Okay? Shift enter. So it displayed the sum of, that's the first value, string value, in the print function. Second value is n1, which contain 5, a variable that contain 5. So the sum of 5. The next value is end, so end. Then the content of n2, 50. Then is, then the content of sum is 55. So that's why our output is the sum of 5 and 50 is 55. Okay. So now let us convert this example because the value of our two variable is fixed, okay? 5 and 50. So definitely we don't want a program with the fixed value. So usually we ask value from the user, we ask data from the user so that we can process it, okay, as part of our program. So we will be using input, but this time we need to convert it to numeric value. Okay, we will be using conversion function because, like what I have said earlier, input function, although we input numeric value, it return string value, so we cannot use it in the computation. Okay, so let me try first without conversion. So I will be using input to accept the first number from the user. Enter. Our message to the user is enter the first number. Okay. So whatever is the input will be saved to N1 variable. Okay. Then for the second input, it will be saved to N2 variable, and our message to the user is enter the second number. Then let us perform addition and save addition of the content of N1 and N2 variable and save the result to the sum variable. So sum is equal to N1 plus N2. And let us display the result. So I'll just copy this. And let us see what will happen when we execute this code. So it will ask you to enter the first number, for example 20, enter. Then for the second input, for the second number, for example 30, and press enter. It will perform in the third line of our code is computation of the sum, and it will be stored to the sum variable, and after that the print to display the content of N1, N2, and sum variable. Okay, so look what happened. The sum of 20 and 30 is 2030 instead of 50. Why? So the input function return string value, and like in our previous demonstration or example, if we use plus operator in the string value, it will perform concatenation. It will just combine. So 20 combined with 30. So that's why the content of sum is 2030. So it simply combine the content of N1 and N2. But what we want to do is to perform addition. So we have to convert the return value of our input function to numeric value. Okay? I'll copy this code. And we will convert the return value. We will convert the return value of the input function to integer. So integer is whole number. Okay. Numeric valued without decimal. So there is a float and double data type. So that is the data type for a number with decimal. The Boolean data type represent true or false value. So we want to convert whatever with number with type using the input function to integer value. So we will be using the int function, and inside the int function, okay, we have the input function. So whatever the value that will be returned by the input function, whatever value that will be typed, will be passed to the int function. Okay, and the int function will convert it to integer value, whole number, numeric value without decimal. Okay, and it will be stored to N1. Okay, so N1 will contain integer value. Okay, whatever integer number that we type in our keyboard. So let us do the same on our second input. Let us enclose the input function inside the input function. Okay. So, okay. And then let us try. Let us execute this codes. Okay. Enter first number, for example. Let us let us use a previous value that we use, 20 and 30. Okay, 30. Okay. So I think we have an error in this. Okay, so it's still accepting. We have to accept only two value. Okay. So let me correct first. So it should not be. Okay, so my mistake. It should be not input. So we have double input here. So yan. Okay. Again. So first value is 20. Second value is 30. Okay. So the output is correct. The sum of 20 and 30 is 50. For our last topic in this tutorial, let us discuss data type. Actually, data types is not new to us because in the previous topics, we deal with string and integer. So I also mentioned to you that in Python, variable is dynamic. So Python is dynamically typed programming language. You don't need to declare a variable. You simply use a variable, then the data type of the variable adapt to its current value. So how do you know the data type of your variable? Before I give example, let me create a markdown for this topic. So I will be creating a heading, a subheading for data types. Okay. Another markdown for the function that we will use. So in this topic, we will be using the eval function in order to evaluate. Okay, we use the eval or eval function to evaluate the given source. So we have a source value, or we have an input value, or we have a value that we want to evaluate. Okay, and then the eval function will determine what is the best data type for that given source. Okay, so it evaluate the given source in the context of globals and locals. Okay, we will also use the type function in order to return the data type of the given value or a given variable. So it determines the variable data type. Okay. So for the first example, so let us create a variable bar with a string. We already know that this is string because it is surrounded with double quote. It has a string value computer. We assign string value computer to var variable. And let us display it using print function with the message data type or the data type op. Okay. Then for the second value, let us display the content of the var variable. Third value, another string is. And then for the last value, let us use the type function in order to determine, okay, in order to determine the data type of the variable bar. Okay. So before I continue, I will fix my markdown for the eval and type function. So I forgot to place a break, no, a line break. So in order to display the type function on the next line, shift enter. Okay. So now let us execute this code cell that demonstrate how to use the type function. You simply pass the variable inside the type function, then the type function will return the data type, whatever is the data type of the, the variable. So shift enter. So this is the output. The data type of computer is, so the return value of type is class str. So str is string. So we already know that bar is string because the content is computer surrounded with double quote. Let us use the function eval to evaluate whatever. So this time we will accept input from the user. We will accept value from the user, particularly numeric value. Okay, we use eval to accept value other than string. So it will evaluate if it's integer, float, or double, or boolean. Okay, so it will determine based on the value that we input. Okay, and then we will save it. Let us use the same variable named bar. Okay, eval. Inside the eval, we put the input function. So the return value of the input function, so will be evaluated and will be converted to the suitable data type. Okay, so our message that will be displayed to the user when we ask input from the user is enter a value. Okay, then let us display. I just copy this line from our previous example. Copy, Control C, then Control B, paste. So what will happen in this code example is, so using input, we will ask value to the user. So you will see a message, enter a value, so we need to type a value. So whatever value that we type, so this time we cannot accept string. That can be numeric value or boolean value. Okay. So it will evaluate the data type. So we pass it to eval to evaluate the data type of the value that we enter. Then it will be stored to bar. Then in the print function, we use a type function in order to return whatever is the data type of our input. So let us try. Shift enter to execute the code. Let us enter 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the data type of 1, 2, 3 is int. Let us try again. Okay, execute again the cell. Let us enter 100.75. Enter. So this time the data type of our variable is float. So that's what I meant in the description of Python as a dynamically typed programming language. So the data type of the bar adapt based on the value it currently store. Okay. Previously, first we assign computer, that is string. Next, we accept value 1, 2, 3, that is integer. And this time we store value 100.75, which is float. So it changed its data type based on the value. Okay. So for example, let us enter 1 million. Okay. Still integer, the data type is integer. Okay. Let us execute the code once again, and this time let us input true, and true is bool or boolean. So bool data type represent only two value. Okay, true or false. Let's try again. Suppose let us enter 0. Enter. So 0 is still within the range of data type int. Okay. So this is our last topic for this tutorial. Okay. Input output operation, variable, and data types. So I hope you learn the basics of Python programming. So for the next lesson, we will deal with operation, different operators like arithmetic, logical, and relational operator, because we need those operators in advanced statements in Python. So see you on our next tutorial.